All right, today we're jumping into a project that's being called the Magnum Opus of a true crypto pioneer. And look, this isn't just another coin drop. This is a really ambitious attempt to solve some of the huge, fundamental problems that have been holding this entire industry back for years. So, the big question is, just how big is the opportunity we're talking about?
Well, it's this big. We're talking $10 trillion. And that's not some random number I pulled out of thin air. That's the estimate from industry giants, the likes of BlackRock and Goldman Sachs. They're looking at all the real-world assets, think stocks, bonds, real estate, the whole shebang, and they see it all waiting to be tokenized and brought on-chain. This isn't just a small tweak, it's a potential revolution for how global finance works.
Okay, so if the opportunity is that massive, you've got to be asking, why hasn't it happened yet? Right? What's the roadblock? What is stopping this absolute tidal wave of capital from just flooding the crypto market? Well, it turns out there are three core problems that have kept this future just tantalizingly out of reach.
So in this explainer, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with crypto's $10 trillion problem. Then we'll introduce a new blueprint called Midnight. We'll break down its three core pillars and then look at how it was built so differently, with no VCs. After that, we'll explore what privacy for everyone everywhere actually looks like, with some real-world examples. And finally, we'll talk about what this all means for the future. So yeah, let's get into it.
To really get the solution, you have to get the problem first. And to do that, we got to talk about Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano and a real OG in the crypto space. He basically argues that for 15 years, the industry has been kind of spinning its wheels, unable to get real mass adoption because of these deep, nagging issues with privacy, how hard it is to use this stuff, and of course, regulatory compliance. For those big institutions with the keys to that $10 trillion, these aren't just nice-to-haves, they're absolute non-negotiable deal breakers.
And he should know. Hoskinson's been in this game since the very beginning. As he says here, he was around when Bitcoin was $1. He's not some tourist looking for a quick payday. He's in this to build for the long haul and to solve the hardest problems the industry is facing.
And that brings us to Midnight. So, after 6 years of deep research and development, and get this, over $200 million of his own money, Hoskinson is calling this project his Magnum Opus. He even describes it as a fourth-generation cryptocurrency. What he means by that is that it's been engineered from scratch to solve these really complex issues of getting different systems to talk to each other and govern themselves, things that previous generations of crypto just couldn't crack.
So what is it really? Well, at its core, Midnight is a data protection blockchain. Think of it less like another coin and more like the fundamental infrastructure, the actual wiring, that's going to allow all of us, individuals, companies, even governments, to interact privately and securely in this new digital economy.
So Midnight's entire design is built on three core pillars that all work together to solve that $10 trillion problem. These are holistic privacy, radical abstraction, and something really cool called smart compliance. Let's break down exactly what each of those means. Okay, first up, privacy. Hoskinson makes this brilliant point that we've been thinking about privacy completely wrong. It's not some light switch that you just flick on or off. He uses this great analogy. He says, privacy is like waterproofing. If you're trying to waterproof something, you can't just patch one hole. Water gets in through every single tiny crack, so you need a system that protects you from every possible angle. And this is where that analogy just clicks. Most privacy coins out there offer what you'd call light switch privacy. You make a single transaction private. But ironically, doing that can actually paint a target on your back for regulators. Midnight is going for waterproofing. It's about having layers of protection that cover everything, from your network activity all the way down to your hardware, making privacy the default setting, not some special feature you have to turn on.
Pillar number 2 is abstraction. And let's be honest with ourselves, using crypto is still way too complicated for most people. Abstraction is all about hiding that complexity behind the scenes. The whole goal is to make using decentralized apps feel just as simple and intuitive as ordering a coffee or using your favorite app on your phone. Think about it like this. When you walk into a coffee shop, you don't really care if the beans are from Kenya or Ethiopia, right? You just walk up and say, "I'd like a coffee." That is the vision here. You just say, "I want this token," and the protocol in the background figures out the cheapest, fastest, best way to get it for you, whether it's on Ethereum or Solana or anywhere else. It just works. And this final pillar, this is the one that really unlocks the door for all those real-world assets, smart compliance. It's basically about taking all those complex, painful regulatory rules, things like know your customer and anti-money laundering, and turning them into automated code. It makes following the rules of the road seamless and programmable.
And really, this is just the next logical step, isn't it?
The industry took this huge leap forward when we went from paper contracts to smart contracts. Well, smart compliance is that exact same kind of leap, but for the world of regulation. It lets global businesses operate across any border without needing massive teams of lawyers and compliance officers.
So the technology is obviously super ambitious, but how it was built is just as radical. Midnight did not take the usual path of raising tons of money from venture capitalists. Instead, it was designed from day one to be as fair and decentralized as possible.
$200 million. That's how much Charles Hoskinson personally put in to get Midnight built over those 6 years. By funding it himself, he completely sidestepped the influence of venture capital, and that changes the entire dynamic of a project like this.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. The typical VC model, well, it has a built-in exit ramp for the early investors, and that often comes at the expense of the regular users. Midnight completely flipped that script. With no VCs to pay back, they could literally give the token away for free in what's called an airdrop to almost 1 million people across 8 different blockchain communities.
This quote really captures the whole philosophy behind it. The real power of crypto is supposed to be with the many, not the few. So by prioritizing a fair, community-first launch, Midnight is basically betting on the power of a grassroots network over a tiny group of insiders.
Okay, so the tech is incredible, and the launch was designed to be fair. But what can you actually do with it? What does this mean for our everyday lives? Let's get into some real-world examples that could affect pretty much everyone.
The possibilities are just unbelievably diverse. But let's take that business example because it's fascinating. Imagine 2 rival car companies, let's say Toyota and a competitor, and they need to work together on a new safety feature. Normally, that's impossible. Neither one is going to share their secret proprietary data. But with Midnight, they could both feed their data into a secure program that verifies the result without ever revealing the underlying data to each other. And that same idea applies everywhere. From proving you're over 18 without showing your driver's license, to sharing just enough medical data to qualify for a clinical trial without opening up your entire health history. So all of this is pointing to a much bigger vision. Midnight isn't just about building one more chain, it's about connecting all the chains together in a way that preserves our privacy. You know, it really feels like a potential inflection point for an industry that's been trying so hard to break into the mainstream.
So here's the key takeaway. This is a massive catalyst for growth. Hoskinson believes that privacy isn't some niche feature for tech geeks. It is the feature that's going to bring the next wave of hundreds of millions of users into this space. As more and more of our lives go digital, the need to actually control our own data is going to be the main driver for adoption.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We are moving headfirst into a world where everything, from our bank records to our medical charts to our social lives, exists online. In that world, having the tools to control who gets to see what and when they get to see it, that's not just a convenience, it's a fundamental human right. So the real question we all have to ask ourselves is, what is that control actually worth to you?